welcome to the HindmanCast, a podcast of the Hindman Settlement School, where we explore the history, culture, and people that make the Hindman Settlement School what it is today, and how this historic institution will continue to serve its mission of celebrating heritage and changing lives in Central Appalachia. I'm Corey Terry.
I'm Jordan Collins.
And welcome to episode number 9 of the HindmanCast, and we are in a bit of a different location today. We're up here in the Great Hall. Our heat is out in the Uncle Saw's cabin right now.
But you know, it's kind of fitting. We're in the Mike Mullins Heritage Center, so.
Yeah, we're in the Mike Mullins Cultural Heritage Center, and we are sitting next to Mike Mullins' beautiful portrait here, because today we are going to be talking about Mike Mullins and his legacy here at the Hindman Settlement School with his daughter, Cassie. We thought it would be a good time to talk a little bit about Mike and his legacy as we are in the search for a new executive director. And it's also, we're coming up on 9 years since Mike's passing in February of 2012. So we thought we would do a little bit of a honoring of his legacy here and talk to Cassie about growing up here at the settlement school. Cassie, what was that?
So thanks for inviting me to be here with y'all.
It's a pleasure to have you. How's things going up in Cynthiana? Is that where you're from or living now?
Yes, yeah. I've lived here about 15 years. My husband's from Cynthiana. And so when he finished, he's a family medicine doctor. So when he finished his residency and training, we came back here. And he actually joined the practice with the doctor who delivered him, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, who still works 2 days a week at age 84 with my husband. So yeah, we're doing good, just like everybody else. We're staying home.
Yeah, you all were following you on Facebook at the beginning of the pandemic cases coming here in Kentucky. I think you all were like sort of involved with the first cases there in Harrison.
We were. It was really crazy. It was March 6th. I remember it was my mother-in-law's birthday, and that night my oldest daughter was like, "Mom, somebody at school said there was a case, in Kentucky," and I said, "Yeah, it's in Lexington," which I know is close by. I remember saying, "There's nothing to worry about. Cynthiana's smaller. I'm sure the cases will be here, but it'll be a long time." And 24 hours later, my husband was like, "Don't freak out, but I'm pretty sure I've been treating 2 COVID patients all week and had no idea."
Yeah.
And of course, no masks, no PPE, nothing, because they'd done the tracing, and it's like these people were all connected. And at that point, you couldn't just go get tested like you can now. It was really hard to do. So it was 24 hours before we knew. So he just immediately kind of isolated himself at our house. And then that Sunday, we found out that he had, in fact, of the first 3 positives in the state, 2 were his. So, yeah, it was a little scary at first, just because you didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
Right.
And we didn't know if he would get sick, if we would get sick. I see my mom moved here about 6 years ago. And so I see her a lot. So, I was worried about that. But luckily we don't know how, but he never got sick. But we kind of got thrown into the pandemic at first at our house.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch your all's Facebook pages during those times when we were all kind of freaking out, not knowing what was going on, and just watching, trying to figure things out.
Yeah. Well, and my husband really tried to. He doesn't usually do social media, but he was on there every day. So he was just trying to let people know what was going on, and mainly there were just a lot of people were afraid, and he wanted to kind of, I guess, weed through the misinformation, because there was so much of that, and put people's fears to rest. Like, I'm okay. This is what we're doing, and I think that really helped. And he tried to add some humor. He had a rap battle with a teacher. Just normal things.
Yeah.
Normal things. In a time where we don't have a normal anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot about the coronavirus, though. There's just so much that was unknown. That's what made it so scary, I think. It's just like when people see something they don't know or understand, there's fear that comes with it. So.
Yes, for sure.
For sure. So we want to talk with you about your dad and all that good stuff today. I never met him, even though I grew up here in Hyman. But I've heard lots of stories, and I admire a lot of his character and things that I've heard about him, and wish that I could have met him. I'm just hearing stories of the things that he did here on campus, and how he, like on a snow day, he would go pick up people to bring them to work and that sort of thing. And,
oh yeah, there were no days off.
yeah, like the work ethic that he had is inspiring, and I think it's awesome. So I'm very interested to hear more about that. But first, let's start off as good as you can, just telling us a little bit about his upbringing and what brought him to the settlement school.
The origin story.
Well, he grew up over in High Hat in Floyd County. So he's born at home.
Mm.
He was born in 1948, so he was the oldest of 5 kids. His father, Herman, was a coal miner, and his mother, Mildred, my mother-in-law, is still alive. She's 91. She, took care of kids. She worked in school lunchroom. He talked about when he talked about growing up, he was very, very proud of his family and where he was from. And he's like, we didn't have anything. We weren't wealthy, but we were never hungry. We were never without clean clothes. They had a big garden. They grew a lot of food. They killed a hog every year. They did that up until, I remember going to hog killing when I was a kid. So he grew up, surrounded by family, basically. They all lived close together, close-knit, big family. And then, of course, everybody went to school and they walked to school. That was kind of normal. And he just said he always loved school. He loved learning. And he ended up being the first person in his family, and actually the only one of his siblings, to graduate from college, to go to college and graduate. And he ended up at Berea because he had, it's funny, he'd never been to Berea ever until the day he got there to go to school. He heard about Berea College, and he was interested in history, and he'd heard about Lowell Jones, who he met and was one of his teachers. And so I always found it interesting that he wanted to go to this place that he'd never been to. We go visit colleges now, and we say we like this, we like that. But he just, got in the car and went and didn't really know anything. And he loved Berea College, loved it. That's all I heard about growing up, is how much he loved that place. And so he was there for 4 years, majored in history. He met my mom his senior year. She was a freshman. Somehow, we still don't know how, he convinced her that they should get married, and she was 19. And so she quit college, and they drove down to Jellicoe, Tennessee, because you could go there and get your marriage license, your blood test, and everything in one day, apparently. And they got married, and then immediately went to Cincinnati, where he was at the University of Cincinnati for graduate school. He got a master's in history there. And so they were there about a year, and that was always kind of like just, I guess, part of his path. He's like, I didn't want to live in Cincinnati. I didn't want to live in a big city. And from there, they came to Alice Lee College. That was kind of his first job, I guess. And he worked with Bill Weinberg and was part of an oral history project, I guess the oral history project coordinator at Alice Lloyd. So that's kind of like that takes you through a lot of his life in a little bit of time. And there was, during his upbringing, there was one pretty huge defining moment for him. When he was 8 years old, he was hit by a car. He was walking home from school, just like everybody else, and was on a bridge, and the car didn't see him and hit him. And he said it flipped him like into a creek. And he got up and he walked home. And then he doesn't remember anything until he was 9 years old almost, because he had severe internal injuries.
Wow.
So, and of course, here they are in High Hat, Kentucky. There's a small hospital in McDowell, which is about 15 minutes away. They took him there. And then he was taken straight to Huntington, West Virginia, because that would have been closer than Lexington at the time, because there was no, parkway. There's no 4 lane to get to Lexington. And so he spent a year of his life in a hospital. enduring major surgeries. Was told that he wouldn't live. I mean, his parents said goodbye to him, but he did. He somehow got through it. Had excellent medical care, so he ended up being held back a year at school because of that. So he was a little bit older for his class, but he talked about that. Like, he told all of us kids that story, about how tough that was. And I mean, can you imagine? You're 8 years old, you have 4 younger siblings, your dad's a coal miner, your mom doesn't work, and he's in Huntington, which is, 3.5 hours at that day and time, or 4.
Yeah.
And he doesn't remember, he didn't remember big chunks of it, but my grandparents sure did.
Mm.
And so he always talked about, like, he always felt like, I've got some kind of purpose in my life. And he felt like he found it at the settlement school. That was kind of like his calling, I guess you would say. So he was Dallas Lloyd for, I think, a couple of years before he was hired as the director of the Hindman Settlement School. So his first day on the job at the settlement school was December 1st, 1977. So I was getting ready to turn a year old. So it was just my mom, me, and my dad, and he was like 28 or 29, and probably had no idea, what he was getting into, but was ready. I mean, he wanted to live and work in Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
That was always what he said. He never considered living anyplace else.
I mean, he upheld the legacy of the Hindman Settlement School for well over 2 decades, right? So, I mean, he
was there for 35 years.
35 3
years.
decades.
Yeah, 3.
But it's just, it's dumbfounding just to come in as like a young man like he was, and just run essentially like this central part of Appalachia and Hindman for sure. So it's just, I don't know, it's just crazy.
And I see the book there.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Watts was one of the people that interviewed him, and she did not vote for him to get the job. She was not a big fan. And I remember Miss Watts. I was lucky enough to be around her a lot when I was younger. And she was very,
had a pretty close relationship from this book anyway. That's what they were talking about.
And that's what was so interesting, is because, of course, I didn't know that until a lot later. And I remember being like, what do you mean she wasn't excited? You were all like close friends. And Dad's like, no, but you got to remember, I was really young, and the campus was not in the best shape at the time. They'd had some really hard winters. And that was another one. I mean, I think his first 2 months, he like dug some ditches, and, just whatever, heat goes out, water pipes bust like they do still. But he won her over, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Getting in the trenches.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
Literally getting in the trenches. Yeah, I read that in the book. I guess like a bunch of the water lines had froze off and busted everywhere, and like nobody was fixing it. And so he went out and working on it. And that's the kind of leadership that I like.
Real grit.
Yeah.
Real grit.
Like, not afraid to get in there. And there's a picture of him doing the dishes. I said there was a picture of him in the book of him doing the dishes at Writers Week or something. So, yeah.
He never asked anybody to do something that he wouldn't do too.
Yeah.
But he expected you to do it right. I mean, you could ask anybody that ever lived there or worked there. He had one speed, and it was like a 10. I mean, it was always, he did not know how to sit down. I'll just put it that way. It was hard for him to relax. It just was, because his mind was always going. There was always something.
I mean, yeah, he probably had a lot on his shoulders, like the settlement school it's a big part of his community. So I just imagine that was probably.
And from reading the book, like, it sounds like at the time he was coming in, the settlement school had kind of like lost a lot of its relevancy in the community. And like, he was integral in bringing a lot of the programs that are still going on today that have sustained the settlement school to this point. So without his leadership with the Writers Workshop, Folk Week, and Dyslexia program, I don't know what the history would be like of the Hindman Settlement School if it wasn't.
Well, it was definitely kind of at a crossroads, because, the settlement school had been a rural school for a long time. And then when the public schools were finally able, you had Hindman High School, which, is of across the creek where it used to be. Those buildings are still there. But kids still lived on the campus because they didn't have buses. I mean, imagine getting from Quicksand to Hindman. That still takes forever.
Yes.
But there wasn't any way to do that. I think I've been to Quicksand twice. And I grew up there.
Yeah.
So it was definitely at a crossroads. Like, it would have been just as easy to say, this place isn't going to work anymore, or we're going to turn it into something else. But my dad he loved Eastern Kentucky. He loved the people and the culture. And I think that the culture aspect of it was so important to him. So like the writer's workshop, Al Stewart, and some folks had a writer's workshop before Dad came. And it would have been so actually easier to kind of let that go away because, it was so small and nobody really knew about it. But that was really important to him. That, and like you said, Folk Week, he worked, and not just him, but everybody at the settlement school. It was easy for people to come to those weeks, and they're so special. And I know you hear about that from people, but it didn't just happen. Living and working there, it was year round, getting ready for the next writer's workshop, for the next Folk Week. Will there be enough money? Will we have the staff that we need? Will we have the? I'm trying to think. What one year they remodeled where you are now in the Great Hall. There's no air conditioning in that building, so it was like, will we have all that ready in time? So there's so many little things, big things that were always going on, getting ready for those workshops, and it was a lot of work,
Still is today, quite honestly, getting ready for those.
Oh, yeah, I remember. I mean, I loved summer at Sales School. I loved it. I loved everything about growing up there. I think that there's like very few times where I thought, I wish my dad had a normal job, whatever that means. Most of the time I was thrilled to be a part of it. Like summer, getting ready for the summers was crazy. It started the second, that first week of June, and it did not end until basically the first week of August when Writer's Workshop was over.
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty much the same.
Oh, this year's been different.
Yeah.
I'm sure so.
This year's just been very low.
Right. Other than when you have to shut everything down.
Yeah. So yeah, the summers are always really busy, and then the winters are just kind of quiet. I usually take off a lot of time in the winter.
Yeah, because you were working the farm for a long time.
Yeah, working the farm, still doing that sort of thing. But
my dad would love that, by the way. He would love that there's a farm. And I mean, that's just, he grew a huge garden every summer. That was his recreation, I guess you could say. That is how he would wind down.
Yeah.
So my mom and I loved seeing that because he would have really loved that.
Yeah, it's been a growing program. I think it started with the Grow Appalachia in 2014 or so. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a good addition to the work we do here. So did you all live on campus? You all didn't live on campus, maybe for part of the time, I don't know, but were you on campus living or elsewhere?
We did we lived there in the pole house.
Okay.
I'm sure you know which house that is.
Oh yeah.
Until I was 5. So I don't remember it really well. My mom would have some thoughts on living up in the pole house because it was not in the shape it is right now. So they moved into that house before Thanksgiving in 1977. So here's my mom and dad with a baby, and you can't pull up to that house. You got to park on the other side of what used to be Mr. Steele's house and walk down the path.
Yeah.
And so we lived there, and I do have some memories of living there. James Steele was our next door neighbor. I do remember that. And when I was 5, my parents had built a house about 7 or 8 miles down the road in Emily.
So what was it like for you growing up around the settlement school and watching your dad do his job?
I I didn't know that that's not how everybody was living, at first. I just thought everybody was friends with writers and musicians. Am I still on there? I feel like I'm.
You're still with us.
Oh,
Okay. It's just my video part's cutting out. But as long as you can hear me, that's all that matters.
yeah, our video is cutting out. It's the problem.
Okay, that's okay. As long as we can hear each other, right? That's the important part. But no, it was definitely like not a 9 to 5 job, as you all know. So like normal day for us, we didn't come home after school. So we lived, once we moved out to Emelina, that was too far for us to be home by ourselves after school. So we always rode a bus, like to the settlement school, when we were at Hindman Elementary. And so, our day started early. We go to school, we drive the bus to the settlement, come to the kitchen, get some food. That was basically my kitchen. Do our homework, play. We were given free reign of the campus. We knew the rules, like, we obviously didn't go in the Stuckey or the Priest building, places that were locked. I did everything in the room you're in right now. I mean, I played in there. I slept in the floor. I got married in there. I mean, like that room was important. So like and then we ate all of our meals together at the settlement school. So Monday through Thursday, we had family style suppers together. And that was until I went to college. That was just that was part of the staff that worked there. Of course, you're not going to get rich working at a nonprofit. So that was part of like the Mennonite Volunteers. That's back when they provided art and music teachers to the public schools, which was really great. And so we all ate supper together every night at 5 o'clock. We had soup beans once a week because that was my dad's favorite food. I hate soup beans, which is terrible, but and then we did, we had Thanksgiving together. Christmas was huge. I still get homesick on Christmas. I have like my depression period, I call it, where I want to come back to Hindman and I want to have the Christmas party and I want to have my Christmas meal. And those things have been gone for a long time. I mean, those stopped before my dad died, just because they just weren't as relevant as they used to be. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, he would say, if this is not what we're supposed to do anymore, we won't. But Christmas was huge. There was it went back to when the founders were there. They would have a big community Christmas party. And so my dad loved that. So we would have a big meal, a program. And if you were on staff, you were in the program.
Oh.
That was non-negotiable. Didn't matter if you can't sing. I can't sing at all. I was in the program every year.
So was Rita Ritchie in one of these programs? Because I want to see that.
Oh yeah, yes. You need to ask Rita about it. Ask her about song practice, present writing. Yeah, Rita can tell you about the inside of that. But Santa came. It was a big deal. It was always like the second weekend in December, and I only remember one time us getting snowed out. So the cooks had made all these turkeys and roast beef, and the food was ready. It starts snowing at like 2 p.m. And Dad did not accept defeat for the snow. And so it's like, we're going to do this. Nobody came. It was terrible outside. So I think they ended up boxing up the food and we just started giving it away, like drive around town. None of it went to waste. That was not allowed. So
you gotta respect that.
Yeah, it was just
that non.
Yeah, I mean, because you weren't. Yeah, it wasn't like, okay, well, we'll just throw this away or we won't do it. We all ate together because everybody lived there, except us 7 miles away. But those were just always really special times, I think, growing up. As a kid that lived there, I loved that. I loved that it was just a family, is basically what it was. That might sound cliche, but it was really a family.
Yeah, it really is. It still operates that way, though. I think we need to bring back the dinners every evening.
At least once a week.
I mean, we're on campus.
Yeah,
we can make this happen.
Sarah Kate.
I
can't cook, but I'll bring things.
I can make tacos.
I'll take the plates.
You do the dishes.
Yeah, I mean, And you had to wash dishes. Everybody had to wash dishes after it was over. And I remember thinking that was the worst thing in the world. I still don't like to wash dishes, but, and that was when there was the old kitchen. Like the new kitchen now, I still call it the new kitchen, even though it's not new.
Yeah.
But the old kitchen where you had to wash and like dunk everything in the hot water 3 times and then hand dry it, and you'd be like sweating and dying in there. That was just good times.
I love the dish. I love doing dishes here. That big dishwasher in
Oh,
there.
yeah, that heavy sprayer.
Yeah, like if I ever build my own house, it's going to have a commercial dishwasher in it, I think.
Yeah, I remember thinking like Hindman Settlement School has gone big time when I found out there's going to be a dishwasher.
Yeah, it's awesome. We actually had to get a new one like last year, I think, because the other one tore up. But
Yeah, we had
It
writers.
was always, oh yeah, it was always funny, especially Writers Workshop, is when every now and then you get somebody who you could tell thought, I'm a little too good to be washing dishes. You know, like I'm not gonna pay to be here and wash dishes. And that never went over. They ended up in there every time. And usually had a fantastic time, you know, like because that he would always do his intro at the beginning of Folk Week and Writers Workshop. And lots of people talked about this after he died. He'd give his whole spiel about, no alcohol, don't bring pop in the Great Hall. I don't know why. I guess if it's spilled, he could not handle that. That was not going to happen. And no firearms. But with his accent, it sounded like he'd say firearms, no firearms. And people would be like, what is he saying? We don't understand. So we're like, Dad, just say no guns. then they'll understand. And there'd be a sign up to wash dishes. So seasoned veterans would literally, before they put their clothes down, would come to the Great Hall and find that list, and they knew what to sign up for. They knew you should sign up for like a lunch or an easy breakfast, but not like one of the big meals. Because if it wasn't filled, he'd walk around and be like, "You haven't signed up yet. You need to put your name down."
I think they still do the same thing today. They'll find that shine.
Right? They know. They totally know.
yeah, I think it's become part of the culture now of the settlement schools. Like it may have been not very appealing in the beginning, but now it's like, yeah, I want to do the dishes.
Yeah, you come for the dishes
Yeah,
now.
especially during folk.
Right. It's like
They're always
I
pumping
think
for dishes, I think.
yeah, it's like a badge of honor now.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I've always thought that was fun and interesting.
So you've told us a little bit about growing up on the settlement school. So what was the funniest thing or like the most entertaining thing that happened while on campus?
Oh gosh, there were many. So there were a lot of interesting people that passed through Hyman and probably still do. I was telling Corey about sledding when he posted that video of his ice skating.
We also did a video of him actually falling right on his butt. So
I'm sure that's a terrible spot. But on a snow day, like I said, Dad didn't take off work, and so he would literally go pick up like the secretary or whoever he needed to be there that day. And when we were younger, my mom had gone back to college, so she was going to Alice Lloyd, and we were all school age, so we had to go to work with that. Like I said, we didn't have any neighbors or anything. We were too young to be home alone, but that was normal. I mean, we thought that was great because why do we want to stay home when we go to film school? And so we wanted to go sledding. My sister's 4 years older than me. My brother's 3 years younger. And then there was always some other youngins hanging around. I don't know, probably people that worked there. Maybe somebody lived in town. We just start playing. And my dad was big on us playing, but he didn't want us to get hurt. I mean, he wasn't like standing over us, but like, don't get in the creek, don't sled into the creek, don't hit anybody's car. And the settlement school looked totally different then. So there was like the part of the building you're in now didn't exist. So you had this big hill that came down, and there was a road, and we were sledding, and one of our friends like did hit somebody's car, and he was fine. And I'm pretty sure Dad came out and hollered at us, like, you cannot do that. You got to find another place. So we're like, okay. So we just went and put the sled right at the base of, like, if you were going up to the apartment, like where the old office would have been. Mm-hmm. And we just came down we maybe even started up closer to the Stucky. I don't know. It was really stupid because it was just ice all the way down. So we're sledding down this hill, and Dad has no idea. And my brother was pretty young, and around the area where Corey almost fell and where you unfortunately did fall.
I just laid there.
There was these huge, he had basically these huge like boulders placed. My dad hated for people to park in the grass. Do not park in the grass in the settlement. Don't turn around in his grass. Like if you wanted to just get him super mad, mess up the grass. I'm telling you, just didn't do it. And so he's like, okay, fine, I'll put big rocks here and then people can't do it. So like, kind of facing the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we came down off that hill, and of course we couldn't stop. And I don't know if I bailed or what. I'm sure we put my brother in terrible danger because we were awful. And he hit this rock like really, really hard, and it scares us to death. So we run and get my dad, who picks him up and just takes off in his truck to Grady Stumbo's was our doctor, still where he works today, because he's convinced that we've killed Nathan, that he has internal injuries or something. So Grady looks him over and he's like, Mike, I really think he's fine. And man, we got in so much trouble. But it was so much fun too, like now I'd kill my kids if they tried to do something like that. So snow days were fun. One time this was when I think I was in college. I don't know what was coming up. I don't remember if it was what program, but it was in the summer, and the grass course being mowed, and Moses has more than he can handle. And so they just got in a 0-turn mower, which back then those were like $10,000, or $12,000, something crazy. So they were new.
I think we're still
and Dad wanted to do what?
I think we're still using the same one. We still got the old Gravely from like the
Okay,
80s.
well, we looked out from the old office, and my dad had decided to mow with it. He had never used it before. And he's hanging over the bank into Troublesome Creek. Like, he's on the mower. It's like he could have easily gotten hurt really, really bad. And so nobody wanted to laugh because it kind of scared us. It was also kind of funny. Like you're always on Moses and everybody gets grass cut and you almost kill yourself on this mower. Has to be rescued. And I don't think he ever touched it again. Like Moses was like, stay off my mower. This is not a good idea.
I think Moses has had some encounters too on that thing up by
Moses probably, yeah.
There's certain places he won't use that thing. He gets the old 40-year-old Gravely out. I'm amazed still runs, but it runs good.
Yeah, but we always had, and I would just say like just the different people, like 90 probably 8% of the people that came loved it there or had a good experience, but you can't please everybody. And one time there was somebody riders, but I never, and he fill out at the end, and say, but here's what I didn't like, here's what you should change. He wanted to know, like if there was something that didn't work, he wanted to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody just wrote this amazing thing about him, specifically about my dad, and just thought that I guess they just thought he was terrible at his job. And it was just funny because he's the one reading it. Like, there's nobody to pass this down. And I remember just kind of like, okay, and just put aside. Like, it made me really mad that somebody felt this way. And he's like, well, Cassie, I asked for their opinion, and it's okay. This sometimes people come and this isn't the place for them. They maybe wanted a different experience, or they didn't embrace the opportunity they had. He's like, I can't change that. But, obviously now I know what they think of me. He's like, okay, I feel like I won't have to worry about it because I don't think they'll come back. And they didn't.
Yeah.
That's like one out of thousands of people. So he taught me some good life lessons, and just don't let those things get you down because you can't please everybody. You can't.
I think that's a lesson I need to carry right now.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And we probably just as a kid, one funny thing that happened is like I said, we did everything in settlement school, like our holidays. And when you live in a rural community, you can't trick or treat door to door. We didn't have any doors next to us. So we would drive to town and go over to the Combs house, Virginia Combs, when she lived there, and get popcorn. And we'd go to my granny's, and then we would come and trick or treat at the settlement school because people lived in the apartments. And I remember I would think we thought that was so exciting. We got candy and apples and popcorn. We go to this one door, and I'm not going to reveal the name because I don't want to hurt her feelings. And she got us paper clips. And I was like, "Are you serious?" And I think my dad was like, "Do not say one word. You will not, be rude or disrespectful." But for years, my siblings and I talked about the paper clips. We were like, "What? Who does that?" We thought that was just criminal.
That's peculiar.
Yeah, most people complain about like the vegetable or like fruit lady.
Tootsie Rolls or something like that.
No, it was just like anything would have been better than the paper clips. We just thought that was tragic. But I remember my dad had this look, and if he gave it to you, you did not say a word. You just shut your mouth. And so I was like, I had to learn that lesson the hard way. I'm a lot like him, apparently. So as my mom says.
Did you all go to Frogtown at that point too to do your?
Oh Lord, no. They would never let us go to Frogtown. We were so deprived.
Oh.
Too much traffic.
I can see that.
I always wanted to. That was like my dream, was to go trick or treat in Frogtown, but no, it didn't happen.
Yeah, Frogtown's a scary place. Trying to pull out of it. Always like, this is where I'm going to die.
Yes, it is. Every single time.
Yeah. So in your opinion, what do you think was your dad's biggest achievements, and what is the legacy that he left here at the settlement school?
I think his biggest achievement was keeping the settlement school relevant for whatever the current need was in the community. And that was really hard to do at times. So like I said, when I was younger, a big focus was providing art music teachers to the public schools. And so once a week, every public school, and at that time there were more than there are now. I think there were 8 elementary schools. I think there's 6 now, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Something like that. I know Bacon Combs closed down. There was another one that had closed down. So every single week, every kid in Knox County had art class and music class. That doesn't happen now anywhere. And so when that funding was kind of cut, that was huge, because you had to tell these people that worked there, I can't pay you anymore. So they all left, except for Mike Ware. So Mike and Rebecca Ware were both working there at the time, and they stayed, and then Mike started teaching at Alice Lloyd. So that was hard, and I feel like things could have gone downhill, at that point at the settlement school, but they didn't. Kind of transitioned into working with the GED program, the adult education program, the dyslexic school. We had a full-time dyslexic school for several years. So I would say, if I had to pick out of, for me personally, if I had to pick out of all of those, I think one of his biggest accomplishments was the work that's been done with so many children with dyslexia in the region.
Yeah, and we're still doing that work too.
Right, and it's just huge, because you think about, if you look on a map and you're like, I wonder where one of the best schools for dyslexic children would be, or the best summer programs. People are going to be like, well, surely it's in Louisville or Lexington, and I know those things are available, but it's not. It's in Hindman, Kentucky.
Exactly. And
it's been for years.
And we've recently expanded. Now we're in Perry County, we're in Leslie County now, and trying to keep expanding. So we're just.
And I know, like, that was not just my dad by any means. It was a lot of people, and a lot of people still working. But the amount of traveling that he did to raise money, he was gone for huge chunks of time. He would be gone in, I think, usually the month of April, like late March and April. He would be gone 3 and 4 days at a time. So he would travel, he would fly all over the country, come back to Hindman, catch up on stuff there, and go out again. And that was hard on my mom. and hard on us. It was just what we did. And so I think that was probably all the years and the work that went into establishing those programs and knowing that it's still happening now is huge. And also the arts and cultural programs. And I know that, Folk Week's not what it kind of changed and isn't the same anymore. Writers Workshop is, other than, having to be virtual during the pandemic. But I just think the emphasis on helping kids with dyslexia is huge, but also making sure that Hindman stayed a cultural center through all of the transitions, in my opinion, is one of the greatest legacies that he could leave behind.
Sure. I didn't ask this question first, but is there any sort of like story that you could think of that sort of highlights his style of leadership and his character? I know we've kind of talked about how he got in the trenches and dug ditches and all those sorts of things. But is there anything else that would stand out to you?
Well, the year that he passed away, he received several, awards, which was great, but it's also like hard because you want to be like, I wish that he was here to get those. I mean, I know that happens, but when he got the Tony Turner Award at the East Kentucky Leadership Conference, which was a huge honor, and they were showing this video, some video footage that like we had never seen. I don't know if it'd been on the news or something, where he made a comment of, somebody's like, why do you do what you do? Why do you still work at this place? You could have moved on. You could have gotten a better paying job. And in his quote, and I'm gonna mess it up, but it was funny and it made me cry at the same time. He made a comment about, because I don't like it when I hear people calling us backwoods, moonshine swilling, incest hillbillies. That's not who we are. And while you can see all those, you might see those things separately, those happen everywhere. He's like, that's not, most people wouldn't use moonshine and incest in a quote for, something that's going to be on TV. But he just was super blunt about it. Like, that's not what we are. That's not who we are. And I want people to understand that, mountain people are strong and smart, and their culture is important. And I just really liked that quote because we were sitting there and my mom looked at me and was like, did you just say incest? And I was like, you sure did. And it was just kind of like, it shocked you. And so he would do that sometimes. Like, he could come across as very kind of gruff almost, and it would sometimes put people on edge, but he wasn't rough or mean. He just sometimes would be very blunt to get his point across. And he had to do that when you run a campus. You deal with, not only things happen to your buildings, but things happen to your people. People had children while they were there. People lost children while they were there. People were from Canada and would find out, their mother was dying. How am I going to get there? Well, here, we'll send you back. We'll pay for it. Like, it was a family. You did whatever needed to be done. So we had a lot of good times together, but there were bad times too. And I think one thing that showed, or one character of a good leader, is that you're there for your people in the good and the bad times. And he was. And I have to include my mom in that, because his legacy is hers as well, because he would not have been able to achieve anything that he did in those 35 years if my mom had not been right beside him the entire time.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and I didn't know that. You don't see that as a kid, but you sure do when you get older and you have your own family. You're like, wow. Yeah, and he would say the same thing.
I mean, that's what they say. Behind every great man, there's an even greater woman. So,
well, and that was the thing. Like, he would take criticism just like anybody would that was in a position of leadership. But you better not let my mom hear about it, because she'd have something to say. If somebody was being unfair, if he deserved it, if you just didn't like him or you had a disagreement. But he was once sort of accused, I guess, of misusing funds at the settlement school. It was written, it was in a newspaper article on the Herald Leader, and it was baseless. And I was furious. I was in college, and I remember that's back. He got the Herald Leader every single day and the Career Journal every single day, and he read newspapers all the time. And so I was used to doing the same thing. I see this, and I'm like, Dad, what is this? He said, well, I invited this person here. I gave them full access to all of our records, all of our financials. I don't know what this is coming from, but there's basically no story. So it was just a lot of, I was kind of surprised it was even published, but it was. And a lot of people got really angry. My mom was livid. Like, she was ready to drive to Lexington. And he's like, it's not worth it, because they couldn't find anything. Obviously, it's not like we're over here rolling in money. We're doing the best we can. And so I wrote a letter to the editor. I didn't tell him. And so it was in the Sunday paper, so more people saw it. Like I said, I think I was a junior in college. And I had to write a bunch of drafts because the first several were just really ugly, and I didn't want to do that. And so after a couple of days, like, people started clipping on it. So they would mail it to him, in case he hadn't seen it. He was like, when did you do this? And I said, well, I was really upset, but I wasn't the only one. I felt like I had to say something, to defend the work you're doing, because it wasn't just against him, it was against everybody. It was against Rebecca Ware, who was the bookkeeper, and it was just terrible. But I saw how he handled that. He never got angry. He never said anything rude. He just was like, sometimes when you're in charge of things, this happens. Sometimes people can't understand that this is really like, we fight and scrape and scrap for every cent that we spend here as a nonprofit, just like you do today. And that was just, that taught me a lot.
Yeah, I think from what I can gather from people listening to people, Mike Mullins is one of the most frugal people on earth. So,
but also
I
giving.
find that surprising.
And caring,
Yeah.
Like Rita would be like, he would give us some money if we went on a trip or whatever to take care of
Yes.
something. So I mean, he's just balanced on both sides, it seems. So it's just,
yeah, because he was very, very careful. Because you had to be, with the money, with the fundraising. And one thing that they did for years at the settlement school, and again, this was back when we had a bigger staff, so it would have been like our teachers, the Mennonite volunteers. I think it's usually like the week after Thanksgiving, we would get in the settlement school van. I don't know if y'all still have a van or not. There was always a van. We had a van. It was usually old.
yeah.
It's usually, it was a new to the settlement van, but not a new van. And maybe one car, and we would meet at the campus at like 6 a.m. on Saturday and drive to Lexington for everybody to do their Christmas shopping or just to go somewhere. Because again, people, we're not making very much money. And everybody got a stipend for the day. And that was just, it was like, maybe it was $50, I don't know. But you didn't have to think, like, all the food was covered. So you could buy your lunch, whatever you wanted, if you wanted to do some shopping or just look around. And people didn't really buy that much. It was just to go. And then we would all have dinner at a restaurant that was paid for by the settlement school. And then we would come back and get back at like 10 o'clock at night. And I thought that was like the fanciest thing ever. Like, my husband cracks up because, of course, he grew up 40 minutes from Lexington. So, like, they could go to Lexington. I was like, no, you didn't just go to Lexington when I was a kid.
It was an event.
I thought only rich people did that. So, but that was like, my dad understood what a treat that was, because he certainly didn't do those things. And he knew that his staff didn't have, if they'd saved up and had money to spend, think about how much gas money it would be to go, how much your lunch would cost, how much your supper would cost. So that was kind of like a little bonus. And they did that for years.
Awesome.
It's just, I don't even have anything coy to say.
Yeah. Sounds like some good times.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we had a lot of fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun growing up. I learned a lot. I worked at the settlement school. I remember I wanted a job. I was like, no, you have to be 18 before I'll hire you. And so my sister and brother, we all worked there at some point. My sister probably worked there the most because she went to Alice Lloyd. So in the summers, she would work there, and she probably knew how to do everything in the office. I mean, she probably could have run the office by herself. And then right before I went to college, I was like, Dad, I really need a job. I got like some spending money before I leave. And so he's like, okay, I'll pay you minimum wage, which I think was $4.25 at the time. He's like 40 hours a week. He's like, you will do all the crap work. Whatever I tell you to do, you'll do it. And there'll be no complaining. And I was like, okay. So I washed dishes. I did stuff in the office. I gave tours. I learned how to do an amazing tour of settlement school. I learned how to raise money. That's just.
Maybe you could give me some pointers on the tours.
I can come and give you like a crash course. And again, it wasn't like, you had a day where you learned it. I just learned it by doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I did things with him and ran errands. The only thing I've never done is I never cut grass or did the weed eating. I got out of that. My brother had to do that some, but he's like has terrible allergies and asthma. So I think he got fired after like 2 weeks. Dad's like, you're going to end up dying and I'm going to get in trouble. So I've got to give you an inside job.
Yeah, that's how I got my start here at the settlement school, is cut the grass. And I can't say that it was fun at all.
I don't know how you made it.
No.
The hills are very steep.
Yes. Oh, I know. It was terrifying. Like I said, if you were going to cut grass, everything, like he took such pride in the campus.
Yeah.
So much pride. So there was never trash. Like if I see somebody throw some trash outside, I will probably go chase them down. Like, because that's what I got to do for fun after school was, Cassie, there's some trash over by the library. I'd be like, seriously, somebody's going to see me. He's like, I don't care. And I'd go get a bag and I'd pick up trash. My kids do not litter, by the way. Like, if you're, they called him Poppy. I was like, if you litter, your Poppy will know. Trust me. You can't do it. Don't do it.
So
he took a lot of pride in the campus.
Was the library the James Steele building at that time?
No,
Oh,
it was. It's where the current library is now.
Oh, okay.
There was an older building there.
Yeah.
And so there was the library and like a pottery workshop that Mike Ware had, and then a place where they stored a lot of stuff, like for the
Elizabeth
I
Watt.
guess
Is that what they called it?
Yes, that was it. I couldn't remember. They tore it down to build the current, because it was like falling apart pretty much when the new library was built, because the old library was, I mean, it was like one room, basically 1.5 rooms.
Yeah, I remember going in there as a kid at some point. But
yeah, I can see, if I close my eyes, I can not only see the library, I can smell the library. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, that's a lot of my memories are very like related to my senses. I'm just that kind of person. But like because of course they had like the window air conditioning. It was super musty. So in the summer it would smell really like musty and moldy.
Yeah.
In the winter it'd be freezing. Stuff like that.
There was a guy come here one time. He just was walking around. I ran into him. And he said he used to work here doing the maintenance and stuff. I think it might have been Chuck Stamper, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, he wanted to come in here to the Great Hall and just smell it because he could remember.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. And the other thing that's weird about settlement now to me is the original entrance into campus has been gone for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they built, the bridge that comes across now. So it used to be at the top of the hill by Mighty Mart. That's how you got to settlement. There was one way in and one way out, and it was straight down that hill.
It kind of came in.
So you had
at the time.
Yeah, if you were coming like towards town, if you wanted to turn left, you had to really know what you were doing or really be right with the Lord, because you just keep. I mean, I saw people miss it. And so when I was learning to drive, Dad was just like, just go up to Mighty Mart and turn around. I was a terrible driver at 16. But I learned how to master it. So that's like when I have memories going, and I don't get to come behind them very often. It's still odd to me that I don't think it, you know what I mean? Like going down that hill, coming across the bridge. You had that narrow bridge. I don't know how many delivery trucks got stuck. I've had to go backwards up that hill when you meet a car and they don't know what to do. I mean, it was an experience for sure.
When you were growing up, did you go to Yoder's when it was downtown?
Yes.
I missed it. I was like 3 when I think they moved up.
You all are super young. Y'all are making me feel old over here at 44.
But I remember them.
Yeah, I'd walk down. We'd walk down to Yoder's and get my favorite, and my dad's favorite was the pumpkin whoopie pie.
Yes, solid.
Brown butter cookies. I'm going for.
He liked to round it out. This is so terrible with a Mountain Dew, which he had given up several times, especially right before he died. And I just wouldn't tell my mom because she'd be like, "Really? That's the worst thing ever."
It's hard to give up a Mountain Dew just to be.
Yeah. Yes, we would walk to, I'd walk to town and got the mail every day. Went to the bank, went to Yoder's, it was very connected. Like I always felt like the settlement school was like its own little island there in the middle, because even though it's connected to town, it's not like it is now. Like it's much more accessible. It just, like I said, you had that one way in and one way out. So that was always kind of nice. It felt like to me as a kid, that was my own special place, and it was mine. Like it belonged to me.
You could
and I guess I still feel that way
too back then.
Do what?
The swimming pool over there back then.
Yes, there was the pool, and we were allowed to go swimming there. And my dad ran the pool for the first couple of years when he got to settlement school, because I guess they give it settlement school to give the land. And he was like, "I do not want to be in charge of the public pool." My sister lifeguarded there forever. I never would want to, but yeah, we were allowed to go swimming. And then my dad would walk from the office and come to the chain link fence, and we had to be there at a certain time to prove to him that we're still alive. That we had lunch or whatever junk food we had.
I don't remember I don't know when they got taken out, but I don't remember it being there. It's just a parking lot now.
Didn't realize we had a pool here. I feel like I'm
right down here where the Human Services Center is. There was a pool there. So I hear. Good old days. All right. So we are in the process, as I said earlier, of searching for a new executive director. And whoever that ends up being has big shoes to fill. So what would your charge be to them in light of your dad's legacy to lead this institution in the coming years? Is she frozen? Hey. Can you hear us now?
Okay, I can.
I
went blank for a while.
The internet in Hindman is struggling today, as it tends to do.
I'm sure.
But anyway, I was, I think, asking the last question before he got kicked off. We are in the process of searching for a new executive director, and whoever that may be has big shoes to fill. So what would your charge be to them in light of your dad's legacy to lead this institution in the coming years?
I would just say to whoever it ends up being or who might want to come, you have to embrace the Hindman Settlement School. You have to want to not just be the director, but you have to be a part of the Hindman Settlement School. And that doesn't mean, my dad didn't have a connection to the settlement school before he came. So that's not like a prerequisite or anything. But I think you have to respect the heritage, the people that came before you, and understand that the work you do, it does matter. And it might change. It might be completely different than what's going on now or 10 years ago, and that's okay. But I think to be the director of the Hindman Settlement School, you have to live in the community, be a part of the community, and really embrace the people and listen. And it's not easy. As you know, it's not ever going to be easy. Hard work isn't easy and always fun. But I think being a part of Hindman Settlement School, especially in a position such as director, is very rewarding. And it's more than work. I think it has to be an integral part of your life and that of your family, if you have a family like it was for us. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can accept that and, be willing to say, I don't know everything, I don't understand, maybe how this works or how that works, but just ask questions. And if you don't understand something, I mean, my dad was, if somebody asked him something that he didn't understand, he'd say, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure going to try to find out. And he made mistakes. He's like, I've made mistakes more than once. And I tried to own up to them and say, okay, maybe this wasn't the best way to handle this situation. But I mean, I know the right person's out there. It's sometimes hard to find them, for them to be connected to a place like Hindman, because I think people have this probably misconception, that's too far away. There's nothing there. It's too rural. But it's not. I mean, look, we're talking on Zoom. Nothing is too far away or not connected anymore. You can be connected, but I think if you really want to be a part of something special and you want to change lives, then Hindman Summer School is the place to do it.
For sure. Thank you so much for joining us today, Cassie. It's been a joy to talk to you. To finally talk to you in real life. I've messaged you on Facebook.
I'm sorry I couldn't come to Hindman. I haven't been anywhere since March of last year.
Yeah. But as soon as you can, you should come down for a visit and give Jordan pointers on giving a good tour.
Yeah, I'll show you what I got, and you can show me what you got.
Okay, and I'll let you know if I feel like giving you any money or not.
Fingers crossed.
That's how we'll gauge it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on today. It's been an honor, and we thank you.
All right, see y'all later.
The HindmanCast is brought to you by the faithful and generous supporters of the Hindman Settlement School. For over 100 years, we've been celebrating heritage and changing lives in Central Appalachia. If you're interested in supporting the work of Hindman Settlement School, you can go to our website at www.hindman.org, or you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the handle @HindmanSchool.